Imagine being born in a tiny house, in a forgotten corner of America, where dreams were meant to stay just that dreams. Now imagine that same boy, years later, moonwalking in front of the world, redefining music, fashion, and performance forever. This is not just the story of a pop star. This is the story of the king of pop, Michael Jackson, a genius born out of struggle, raised under the spotlight, and consumed by the very fame he created. But before the world screamed his name, before the glittering gloves and the diamond-studded jackets, he was just a shy little boy in Gary, Indiana. Let's go back to where it all began. Chapter 1. A house full of music and pressure. Michael Joseph Jackson was born on August 29, 1958, in Gary, Indiana, the seventh of 9 children in the working-class Jackson family. Their small house on to 300 Jackson Street barely had enough room for all of them. His father, Joseph Jackson, worked long hours at a steel mill, but at night, he had a different dream. Music. Joe had once played in a rhythm and blues band, and past that, burning ambition to his sons. The Jackson home was filled with sound-tight harmonies, makeshift drums, and young voices echoing through thin walls. But it was also filled with strict discipline. Joe Jackson was known for being harsh, even brutal. Rehearsals weren't optional. Mistakes weren't forgiven easily. Michael later spoke of the fear he felt when he saw his father. But ironically, that same fear forged a performer who could withstand anything except maybe himself. Even as a toddler, Michael stood out. He had a voice that didn't match his age, pure, emotional, sharp, and most of all magnetic. He could mimic James Brown with shocking accuracy. When his older brothers Jackie, Tito, and Jermaine formed a band, Michael and Marlon were added, initially as backup performers. But soon, little Michael was doing more than singing, he was stealing the show. Chapter 2. The Jackson 5. A star is born. By the late 1960s, the Jackson 5 was more than just a local act. Their polished performances, choreographed, stylish, and full of soul, were catching attention fast. The boys were booked for talent shows, local TV appearances, and even amateur night at the Apollo Theater in Harlem, where they won, of course. Then came the big break. In 1968, after impressing Motown producer Bobby Taylor, the Jackson 5 was flown to Detroit. Berry Gordy, the founder of Motown Records, signed them almost immediately. Gordy saw what the world hadn't yet. Michael Jackson wasn't just a lead singer, he was lightning in a bottle. The Jackson 5's debut single, I Want You Back, was a cultural explosion. It hit #1 on the Billboard Hot 100. Their next 3 singles, ABC, The Love You Save, and I'll Be There, also topped the charts for #1 hits in a row. And Michael, barely 11 years old, was already a household name.
But behind the smiles and energetic dance moves was a boy who never had a childhood. Fame came too fast, too hard. He was touring the world while his peers were playing outside. He was recording albums while other kids were learning multiplication tables. And under the pressure of Joe's intense expectations and the grueling Motown schedule, the sweet boy from Gary was forced to grow up too soon. Chapter 3. The boy behind the curtain. On stage, Michael was electric, his spins, his voice, his eyes. But off stage, he was shy, withdrawn, and deeply sensitive. He was already developing a perfectionism that would later both elevate and torture him. He began to feel like a product marketed, packaged, and sold to the masses. His individuality was buried beneath Motown's formulaic image-making. And even though the Jackson 5 were smashing records, the group was controlled tightly. They didn't write their own songs. They had little creative freedom. And Michael wanted more. He wanted to evolve. He wanted to fly. Closing of part 1, tease for next episode. This was just the beginning. The boy who had taken over radio, airwaves, and teenage hearts was about to break free. But freedom, in the world of showbiz, comes with a price. In the next chapter, we dive into Michael's solo breakout, the birth of Off the Wall, and how he transformed from a talented kid into a global phenomenon. Because for Michael Jackson, being great wasn't enough. He was chasing immortality. Michael Jackson had already conquered the charts as the young star of the Jackson 5. But inside, he knew he was meant for more. More than harmonies, more than matching costumes, more than being just the little brother. He wanted control, creativity, and the freedom to show the world who he truly was. And in the late 1970s, Michael made a decision that would change not only his life, but the music industry itself forever. Chapter 4. Breaking Out, Off the Wall. In 1978, Michael took a step toward artistic independence. He starred as the Scarecrow in The Wiz, an all-black adaptation of The Wizard of Oz, while the film flopped. The experience proved pivotal because it introduced him to Quincy Jones, the legendary producer who would soon become his partner in crafting history. The two hit it off immediately. Michael was hungry for greatness, and Quincy saw that fire. Together, they began working on what would be Michael's first real solo statement, Off the Wall. Released in 1979, Off the Wall was a revelation. With tracks like Don't Stop Till You Get Enough and Rock With You, Michael blended pop, disco, funk, and soul into a smooth and addictive sound. The album was a massive success, selling over 20 million copies worldwide. But for Michael, it wasn't enough. Even after winning a Grammy, he was hurt that he didn't win Album of the Year. In interviews, he confessed, "It was a complete injustice. I cried. I was hurt. I worked hard." And that's when something shifted inside him. He wasn't just going to make music anymore. He was going to make history. Chapter 5. Thriller. Becoming the King. Michael went back to the studio with Quincy Jones. This time, they weren't just making an album, they were building an empire. They recorded dozens of songs. They agonized over every beat, every bass line, every harmony. Michael would record takes deep into the night. He'd dance while singing, feeling the rhythm in every muscle. The goal was simple, but audacious: to create the best-selling album of all time. On November 30th, 1982, Thriller was released. It was unlike anything anyone had ever heard or seen. From the eerie cinematic opening of the title track Thriller, to the heartbreak of Human Nature, to the pure groove of Billie Jean, the album was a sonic roller coaster. It redefined what pop could be. But Thriller wasn't just an album, it was a visual revolution. The Billie Jean music video broke barriers. MTV, which had previously refused to air videos by black artists, couldn't ignore it. Michael's slick dance moves, mysterious narrative, an iconic sidewalk lighting sequence turned it into a cultural moment. Then came the moonwalk. During a 1983 Motown 25th Anniversary TV special, Michael performed Billie Jean live. Midway through the song, he glided backward across the stage. The world stopped. That moment wasn't just cool, it was supernatural. People didn't know what they were witnessing. And just like that, Michael Jackson moonwalked into legend. Chapter 6. The monster success of Thriller. The numbers were staggering. Thriller would go on to sell over 70 million copies worldwide, becoming the best-selling album of all time. It produced 7 top 10 singles. It won 8 Grammy Awards and 1 NIDA record. Michael wasn't just the biggest pop star. He was the pop star, the king of pop. But even as the world celebrated him inside, Michael was retreating. Fame had its price. He couldn't go outside without being mobbed. He wore disguises. He built walls, literal and emotional. The boy who once just wanted to sing was now trapped in a palace of global fame, and the pressures were mounting. He became obsessed with perfection. He scrutinized his appearance. He began altering his nose, his skin. The media speculated relentlessly. Rumors, lies. Half-Truth's Michael was being consumed by the very spotlight that made him. Chapter 7. The Power and the Pain. By the mid-1980s, Michael had it all: fame, fortune, influence. He met presidents, broke racial boundaries, and became the face of Pepsi. But behind the scenes, cracks were forming. He distanced himself from his family. He felt betrayed by the industry. He spent hours alone, surrounded by exotic animals and mannequins. creating a fantasy world where he felt safe. He bought Neverland Ranch, not just a home, but an escape. And yet, through all the eccentricity, Michael remained an unmatched artist. Every step he took set a new standard. Every album, every video, every move was studied, imitated, and celebrated. He wasn't just making pop music. He was shaping culture. But the price of being a global icon? It was only getting higher. Closing of part 2, tease for next episode. From the streets of Gary to the throne of pop royalty, Michael had done what no one thought possible. But fame is a double-edged sword. And in the next chapter, we'll witness how the glare of the spotlight begins to burn. Scandals, surgery, shadows. The next part of his journey is not just about music but survival. After Thriller, the world was in awe. Michael Jackson had shattered every record, broken down racial barriers, and moonwalked his way into the stratosphere of global fame. But success at that level doesn't come without shadows. For Michael, the higher he climbed, the lonelier it got. And as the cameras followed his every move, the man behind the legend began to unravel. Chapter 8, The Perfectionist Returns, Bad. In 1987, 5 years after Thriller, the pressure was unimaginable. How do you follow up the biggest album of all time? Michael retreated into the studio, once again with Quincy Jones. But this time, Michael took even more control. He wrote more songs. He pushed boundaries harder. He demanded more from everyone around him, including himself. The result was Bad. It was edgier, grittier, more aggressive. The album cover itself was a statement. Gone was the smooth lover boy of. Off the wall, in his place, stood a lean, leather-clad Michael with a sharp gaze and something to prove. Songs like Smooth Criminal, Dirty Diana, and Bad showed a new side of him, angrier, more rebellious. But it still had that signature. MJ Magic, The Way You Make Me Feel, and Man in the Mirror were emotional powerhouses. Bad didn't outsell Thriller, but it did something almost more impressive. It produced 5 consecutive #1 singles on the Billboard Hot 100, a record never before achieved. Michael had once again redefined what pop music could be. Chapter 9, The Image War begins. But while Bad dominated the charts, the tabloids dominated his life. His changing appearance became a global obsession. His skin grew lighter, his facial features sharper. Rumors spread like wildfire: plastic surgery, skin bleaching, and more. Michael, ever private, gave little explanation. Later, he revealed he had vitiligo, a condition that causes skin depigmentation. But the media didn't care. They wanted scandal. They called him Wacko Jacko. Every trip to the grocery store, every visit to the hospital, every time he wore a mask, it became front-page news. The lines between fact and fiction blurred. Michael built Neverland not just as a dreamland, but as a fortress, a place where he could escape the noise, the cameras, the critics. There he surrounded himself with children, animals, and rides trying to reclaim the childhood he never had. But that very escape would soon become the center of controversy. Chapter 10, Fame and its Isolation. Despite his immense success, Michael was deeply lonely. He struggled to form adult friendships. He was misunderstood, misjudged, and often betrayed. Even his relationships with his siblings became strained. Fame had elevated him, but also isolated him. He turned to his art for comfort. Every note, every lyric was therapy. Leave Me Alone, a track added to later pressings of Bad, was a direct response to the press. In the music video, he's literally chained and attacked by media clowns. It was theatrical, but also honest. Michael was tired, not of music, but of everything else. He craved love. He craved peace. But peace was hard to find when your face was on every magazine on the planet. Chapter 11, From Bad to Dangerous. In 1991, Michael returned with Dangerous, his most personal and eclectic album yet. Gone was Quincy Jones. This time, Michael worked with producers like Teddy Riley, bringing a new jack swing sound to his music. Black or White exploded across airwaves. The video, which featured groundbreaking morphing effects, was a sensation. But it wasn't just sound, it was message. Michael tackled racism, black or white. Poverty, heal the world. And personal pain, who is it? Dangerous was bold and brilliant, selling over 30 million copies. But even this success was overshadowed by more rumors, more scrutiny, and then accusations. In 1993, Michael was accused of child molestation. The media exploded. Headlines screamed. TV networks went into overdrive. Michael denied the allegations vehemently. No charges were filed. He settled the case out of court. But the damage was done. His image would never fully recover. He later said, "I'm not guilty. I'm completely innocent. But this is the price you pay for being me." And the cost was enormous, not just financially, but emotionally. Closing of part 3 tease for next episode. The king of pop was still on his throne, but it was crumbling beneath him. In the next chapter, we explore the years of decline, resilience, and one final attempt at a comeback. Because even as the world turned against him, Michael Jackson still believed. The best was yet to come. Michael Jackson had faced more in his lifetime than most could ever imagine: global fame, relentless scrutiny, and accusations that shook the foundation of his legacy. Yet even as the world debated his guilt, his strangeness, his truth, Michael remained what he had always been: a relentless artist. Chasing perfection, haunted by pain, yearning to create. But in these final years, the spotlight grew colder, the applause fainter, and Michael, lonelier than ever. Chapter 12. Ghosts and Survival, the 1995 comeback. After the first wave of allegations in 1993, many thought Michael was finished. But in 1995, he returned with history past, present, and future. Book Eye, an ambitious double album mixing his greatest hits with new material filled with anger, sorrow, and fire. Scream, a duet with Sister Janet, was a furious response to media attacks. They don't care about his tackled institutional injustice. Stranger in Moscow was hauntingly autobiographical Michael alone, cold and exiled in his own fame. The album was bold, visually stunning, but the public had changed. The world that once crowned him king was now divided. Some stood with him, others turned away. Michael's crown still glittered, but it was heavier than ever. Chapter 13. Fatherhood, Art, and More Accusations. In 1996, Michael shocked fans by marrying Debbie Rowe, a dermatology nurse. Together, they had 2 children, Prince Michael and Paris, his 3rd child. Blanket was born later through a surrogate. Michael loved his children with a fierce intensity. In them, he saw redemption, purpose, and joy. He tried to shield them from the chaos of his life, phrasing them privately, even making them wear masks in public. But peace would not last. In 2003, journalist Martin Bashir released the documentary Living with Michael Jackson, a supposed in-depth portrait of the singer, but instead, it reignited suspicion. The footage of Michael holding hands with a young boy and talking about sleepovers triggered new outrage. Soon after, fresh allegations emerged. This time, it went to trial. Chapter 14. The 2005 trial, a public unraveling. In 2005, Michael Jackson stood trial for child molestation. It was a circus: media vans, protesters, supporters, and a swarm of cameras capturing every entrance and exit. Michael appeared frail, often late, even showing up once in pajamas due to back pain. The prosecution painted a dark picture. The defense showed the inconsistencies, the lies, the motives. After months of testimony, the jury came back with a verdict: not guilty. On all counts, Michael broke down. His family wept. He had survived, but barely. The trial had destroyed what little peace he had left. Financially drained, emotionally wrecked, and creatively paralyzed, Michael disappeared from the public eye. He left Neverland. He left America. He left the stage. Chapter 15. The Quiet Years: Exile and Reflection. Between 2006 and 2008, Michael Jackson lived like a ghost. He moved between Bahrain, Ireland, and Las Vegas, sometimes seen, often not. Whispers of new music surfaced. Collaborations with Will, I.am, rumors of a Thriller sequel, talks of a new album. But nothing materialized. His health was declining. His finances were in shambles. He owed millions. Neverland had been raided, then sold. Lawsuits piled up. Friendships faded. The world moved on. And yet, somewhere in that silence, a spark remained. Because Michael Jackson wasn't finished. Chapter 16. This is it. One last dream. In 2009, Michael shocked the world. At the O2 Arena in London, he announced this is it, a 50-day concert residency. His final curtain call. Tickets sold out in minutes. The world wanted to see him dance again, sing again, be Michael again. Rehearsals began in Los Angeles. Cameras rolled. Dancers cried tears of joy just to be near him. Despite his age, despite his fragility, Michael still had it. The voice, the timing, the passion. He told his team, "We're putting love back into the world." But behind the scenes, trouble brewed. Michael couldn't sleep. He relied on a cocktail of medications to rest. Administered by a private physician, Dr. Conrad Murray. He was exhausted, pressured, pushed. And then, Chapter 17. June 25th, 2009. The day the music died. It was a Thursday. June 25th, 2009. News broke like a thunderclap. Michael Jackson has been rushed to the hospital. Then moments later, Michael Jackson has died. The world stopped. TV stations played his videos nonstop. Radio stations went silent. Crowds gathered at hospitals, record stores, in the streets. People sobbed, fans, critics, friends, strangers. Michael Jackson, the king of pop, was gone. The cause: cardiac arrest due to acute propofol intoxication. Dr. Conrad Murray was later convicted of involuntary manslaughter. Chapter 18. The Legacy. In death, as in life, Michael Jackson was polarizing. But one thing was undeniable: his impact. Over 400 million records sold. 13 Grammy Awards. Hundreds of millions raised for charities. He influenced every generation of artists after him: Beyoncé, Usher, Justin Timberlake, The Weeknd. His music crossed every language, race, and nation. And his spirit, unforgettable. Closing, the human behind the moonwalk. Michael Jackson wasn't perfect. He was deeply flawed. He was a man-child, a genius, a recluse, an innovator, a tortured soul. But above all, he was an artist. One who poured every ounce of himself into the music, into the dance, into the dream. From a small house in Gary, Indiana, to the biggest stages on earth, Michael Jackson didn't just make history, he became it. Some stars shine, some stars fade, but Michael Jackson, he burned, bright, relentless. A fire that lit up the world and left scars behind. He taught us to moonwalk, to feel, to believe in magic. But behind the glove and the glitter, there was always a boy, still searching for the applause of a father who never clapped. Still chasing a childhood stolen by spotlights. He wasn't just an entertainer. He was a mirror, reflecting our obsessions, our cruelties, our love, and our hate. Michael Jackson didn't just change music. He changed everything. Pause, fade to black, and slow MJ instrumental begins. If this story moved you, Hit that like button so more people can remember the legend. Comment below with your favorite MJ moment, whether it was a song, a performance, or a memory. And if you believe that his legacy deserves to live on, subscribe to this channel, because we'll keep telling the stories the world must not forget. This is not the end. This is just the beginning.